Welcome back, learners. Today we are going to discuss in this session the topic on international conventions and covenants part 2. So today we are going to focus on the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the indigenous people in Asia and India, and what is their situation in India and Asia. So now moving on to the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. This declaration was adopted by General Assembly Resolution 61-95 on 13th September 2007. Guided by the principle of Charter of the United Nations, this declaration affirms the equality of the indigenous people along with recognizing their rights. It also affirms their contribution to the diversity and richness of civilizations and cultures which constitute the common heritage of humankind. It also affirms their freedom from discrimination, which they have been suffering since colonialism, so as to develop them according to their needs, interests, and aspirations. The resolution also mandates respect and promotion of their inherent socio-political and economic rights, especially their rights to land, territories, and resources. The declaration recognizes respect for their knowledge and cultural and traditional practices, contributing to sustainable and equitable development and proper management of the environment. It also emphasizes on the contribution of indigenous people to peace and socio-economic progress of the world. This declaration adopted 46 articles that emphasize various aspects of the development of indigenous people. Now let us see what are the important provisions which are grouped under various themes. Right to freedom of the indigenous people in exercising their socio-political, legal and economic rights along with their full participation as citizens of the country. Right to self-determination. Articles 3, 4, 6, 20, 21, 23 and 33 deal with the right to self-determination of the indigenous people in terms of their own identity, sense of belongingness to any religious faith and traditions. Articles 8 and 9 protect them from forced assimilation or integration so as to protect the culture and promote their right to belonging to any community or nation. Article 10 deals with the protection of indigenous people from forced displacement. Then revitalization of history. Articles 11 to 13, it gives the indigenous people right to revitalize their cultural history, to maintain and protect their cultural past, that is historical sites, religious and cultural sites, artifacts, designs, ceremonies and technologies. Articles 14 to 17 recommend the protection of the education system, including language of indigenous people. These encourage people to establish media in their own language so as to reflect the indigenous cultural diversity. Articles 18, 34, 35 deal with the right to decision making process of the indigenous people and to promote, develop and maintain their institutional structure and their distinctive customs, spirituality and traditions. Article 22 deals with the protection of the rights of indigenous women, youth, children and persons with disabilities. Article 24 and 31 protect the knowledge system of the people in the matter of traditional medical and health practices, including the conservation of medicinal plants and animals, as well as manifestation of their own science, technologies and culture, traditional games and visual and performing arts. Article 25 to 30 and 32 deal with the right to land or territory of indigenous people, including their laws, inheritance, ownership, conservation and protection of the lands and forest resources, etc. Articles 36 to 38 recommend the role of the state in protecting the rights of the indigenous people. Articles 39 and 40 deal with the right of the indigenous people to have the right to assist from the states in finance and technical matters. Finally, Articles 41 to 46 deal with the roles of the UN systems and their intergovernmental organizations in ensuring the protection of the rights of indigenous people. Thus, the resolution of the United Nations pertaining to the indigenous people takes a right-based approach without which the real recognition of their diversity and empowerment seems to be a distant dream. Now let us discuss more on the topic indigenous people of Asia and India. Indigenous people struggle found a space with the UN system in 2000 when the Parliament Forum on Indigenous Issues was established. In this body, indigenous people and states were equally represented. So far, it used to be the domain of the state governments. On 13 September 2007, the General Assembly of the United Nations adopted the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Except for Bangladesh, all Asian governments voted for the declaration. Bangladesh abstained from voting. The success of the international indigenous movement culminated in the adoption of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People by the UN General Assembly. The declaration was adopted by majority vote of 144 states. As many as 11 countries abstained. Only 4 countries voted against it: the US, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. Until June 6, 2008, when Japan Parliament voted in favor of recognizing the AINU as a country's indigenous people, only 2 Asian countries had officially recognized the existence of indigenous people within the boundaries, the Philippines and another country was Taiwan. Lysenberg points out that indigenous people are subjected to many names or terms in their own countries. Asian governments have difficulties with the concept of indigenous people. The workshop on the concept of indigenous people was jointly organized by the Asia Indigenous People Pact and the International Work Group for Indigenous Affairs and TEPTEPA Foundation in March. The deliberation showed that a definition of indigenous people was not necessary and would be counterproductive in view of many positive developments at the international scene. Ernie says that over the past decades, there has been an increasing presence of indigenous people in international processes and institutions dealing with issues such as human rights, sustainable development, forest and biodiversity conservation, international trade or intellectual property rights. The main agenda of these processes was to ensure the indigenous people's rights, to prevent them from further marginalization or destruction of their livelihoods, cultures and societies. Let us see about the tribal indigenous people in India. The term indigenous people or indigenous population is used in various senses. B.K. Roy Berman uses it in 3 different senses. One is chronological, second is relational and the third one is normative sense. Indigenous people or populations in a chronological sense means the earliest inhabitants, if not autochthons. Further points out that the ILO does not use the term universally for the same or analogous category of social entities. And in a relational sense, the term indigenous means the indigenous and tribal people occupying almost without exception in the north and south a poor and marginalized position in national societies. These are the people who until recently are believed to have lived in isolation and whose traditional way of life is being slowly torn apart. Further, in other regions of the globe, the resource base has been severely eroded and no alternative means of subsistence has been provided. It has also been pointed out that in some regions, they may be better off. They still form the lowest social strata. So Roy Berman uses the term indigenous people in the sense of their isolation, techno-economic backwardness, distinctiveness from the dominant culture of the country and marginalization. And in a normative sense, the term is used to identify those people who feel rooted in their surroundings, contain a custodial sense about their territory and resources, are bound together primarily through moral bindings, and carry a sense of reciprocity and mutuality reinforced by egalitarian ethos. Thus, Roy Berman says, "To me, it appears that when indigenous is projected in a chronological sense, it has a power right dimension attached to it. When projected in relational term, it is need right or justice right which is invoked. Projection of the concept of indigenous in normative sense, on the other hand, is an invocation of companionate, value-oriented praxis. The indigenous people, the original inhabitants, they are also known as tribals, Adivasis, Moolvasis, aboriginals, hill tribes, ethnic minorities and ethnic nationalities in various parts of Asia constitute a considerable number in the continent. India is inhabited by 84 million indigenous population, that is 8.2% of the entire population of the country as per the 2011 census. The presidential order in 1950 provided that as many as 212 tribal communities in as many as 14 states were declared to be scheduled tribes. As per the scheduled tribes order, nearly 300 tribal communities were listed in the constitution. The Anthropological Survey of India under the People of India projected identified as many as 461 tribal communities in the country. The term Adivasi is also in use, meaning people living from ancient times or the first settlers. This goes beyond the communities listed in the constitution as scheduled tribes. However, the Government of India does not recognize the term indigenous as applicable to such people. There was unanimity in locating the situation of the indigenous people in India as peculiar because whichever the ruling party, the position of the Government of India has been the same. That is, they say that indigenous people do not exist in India. It was also pointed out that, interestingly, the Indian government signed all documents pertaining to the indigenous people in international arena generously, but refused recognition to them within India. The position of the Indian government has been all in India or indigenous. The Government of India enlists them as the scheduled tribes as per the notification by the President of India under Article 342 of the Constitution of India, which was first issued in 1950. The main characteristics considered for notification were primitive traits, distinctive culture, their shyness with the public at large, geographical isolation and socio-economic backwardness. In the report of Commissioner for Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes in the year 1952, the following 8 common features were mentioned. First, they live away from the civilized world in inaccessible areas, that is, they live in forests and hills. Secondly, they belong to one of the 3 stocks, Negrito, Australoids or Mongoloids. Thirdly, they speak the same dialect. Fourth, the primitive religion, that is animism. They worship ghosts and spirits. Fifthly, the primitive occupations like hunting, gathering of forest produce, shifting cultivation and so on. Sixthly, they are largely carnivorous. Seventhly, they are primitive in dress and clothing. And last, they are nomadic habits because they love for drink and dance. When we see the tribal groups, the primitive tribal groups, there are a total of 75 groups in the country. So they are identified as primitive tribal groups as they are more backward than the other groups with pre-agricultural stage of economy, very low level of literacy, and their numbers are stagnant or declining. It is indeed ironical that Despite diversity and distinctiveness among different communities of the indigenous people in India, there is one thing in common, that is their underdevelopment. They still live in backwardness in terms of low literacy, high mortality, poor health and hygiene, malnutrition, indebtedness, lack of basic amenities of life, human rights violations, and so on. In order to address their problems, a new Ministry of Tribal Affairs was created in October 1999. In 2003, a separate national commission was set up for the scheduled tribes by bifurcating the National Commission for Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes. Now let us look at what is the situation of indigenous people in India. Despite the fact that India has substantial constitutional provisions for safeguarding the interest of indigenous people, many legislations take away what has been given in their favor. The Government of India claims to have allocated significant amount of resources for tribal development, but the impact has been rather limited. The approach adopted has been more welfare oriented and there has been less empowerment. The acts on land acquisition, forest, environment, mining, industry, etc. They have proven that under the garb of national interest, it is always the indigenous people who primarily have to make the supreme sacrifice. The indigenous people are even deprived of social and political constellation in the state. The states have assumed the ancestral and customary rights over natural resources like land, water, forest, value and meaning system, ideology, knowledge and traditions, and over economic and political rights of the indigenous people. Economic policies are oriented towards exclusively economic, ignoring other indicators. The economic policies are oriented towards exclusively economic, ignoring other indicators of development such as health, education, human rights, participation in the decision making process, and so on. Despite these international conventions and national legislations, indigenous people still continue to be marginalized. The displacement of their communities from their traditional lands and the militarization of the territories are some of the nightmares of their powerlessness. Most of the current issues impacting indigenous people in South and Central Asia stem not from natural disasters but from processes associated with globalization, imperialism and capitalism. There are a number of issues such as identity and full citizenship, democracy and participation in the political life of the state and country, development and displacement, ownership of land and custodianship of the forest and natural resources, education and health, human security, food security and the right to sustained and dignified livelihood. Indigenous people continue to be among the poorest and most excluded and marginalized politically, economically, educationally and socially. There are exacerbated threats to their lands and resources under the pressure of globalization. There is increasing evidence of identity related conflicts, often rooted in socio-economic discontent. Addressing indigenous people poverty requires a new development paradigm. They need policies substantially different from those which are currently being applied. Now let us have a quick recap on what we have learned from this unit. We have learned that there are about 300 million indigenous people across more than 70 countries, of which approximately 70% live in Asia. We have also learned that India accounts for about 10% of 8.6 million indigenous people of the country, and the use of the term indigenous people for certain groups of people has been controversial. Then we also discussed on the focus on indigenous people, which can be traced back to 1960s, the process of decolonization which has led to renewed emphasis on people's right to self-determination, creating a larger political space in which new groups could begin to assert claims, marginalization of indigenous groups in the new political mainstream. The ILO Convention of 107 of 1957 and 169 of 1989 have provisions for preservation, protection and promotion of the indigenous populations. The year 1993 was declared as the first International Year of Indigenous People. In 1993, the UN World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna recommended the declaration of Decade of Indigenous People from the year 1995 to 2004. Again, we also came to know from this unit that from 2005 to 15, it was declared as the second international decade of the world's indigenous people. The Cultural and Survival Organization, it is an NGO. So in their article in the year 2019, they said that 30 years ago, on June 27, 1989, the International Labour Organization adopted Convention 169 on indigenous and tribal peoples, primarily to facilitate the development of dialogue between a country's government and the indigenous peoples who live in that country. Its central aim is to protect the human rights of indigenous people and acknowledge the aspirations of these people to exercise control over their own institutions, ways of life and economic development, and to maintain and develop their identities, languages and religions within the framework of the states in which they live. The ILO Convention 169 is a revision of Convention 107, which was adopted in the year 1957. The ILO 107 also covered topics such as health, education and land rights, but it was revised because of concerns that it perpetuated a philosophy of assimilation and paternalism. After ratifying, states are given 1 year to act to implement ILO 169 and address issues in their country that conflict with the convention, and then they must submit a report to the ILO for review. The revised ILO 169 uses language to center indigenous peoples and show respect to their lives and identities. Self-identification is a fundamental criterion for defining who is indigenous or tribal and who this convention should apply to. Since 1989, only 23 countries have ratified the treaty, and ILO 169 continues to hold those governments accountable for violations. ILO 169 is not just a roadmap for countries to follow to thoroughly protect the rights and cultures of indigenous people that live there, but it is also a legal opportunity for indigenous people to hold governments accountable. India has not taken any step for ratification of the Convention of 169. In a special report in May 2012, India's National Commission for Scheduled Tribes informed of perspectives of various government agencies on the convention. As per the report, the Ministries of External Affairs, Home Affairs and the Tribal Affairs objected to the need for ratification of the convention, saying that the concept of indigenous people is not relevant to India and that the convention violates state ownership of subsurface resources in existing laws of the country, that provides fair compensation for lands, and that there was no need for external cooperation or evaluation, including from the UN for tribal development programs in India. India has ratified ILO Convention 107 concerning the protection and integration of indigenous and other tribal and semi-tribal populations in independent countries. In its review of India's application of the convention and recommendations in the year 2010, the ILO Committee of Experts noted that a national tribal policy was still under consideration but not yet finalized, and encouraged India to draw on ILO Convention 169. However, the tribal policy is yet to be finalized. So learners, I hope you would be learning the content and watching the videos carefully, because the topic what we discussed is very important, that is on international conventions and covenants. So happy learning. Thank you.